Hi, and welcome to the Meditation Conversation. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and today I'm joined by Michael Massey. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Kara. Hi, everyone.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And today is June 6th, and we are aiming to release this episode if I can keep things flowing in the right direction, which is not necessarily a given right now. Hopefully, by the time this is released, it will be June 9th,
June 9th.
which is like the best day of the whole year.
Why is that, Kara?
Because it's our birthday.
Oh, that's right. It is. Yes, it is.
So happy birthday, Michael.
Happy birthday, Kara.
Thank you. So we thought today we would just kind of give a little bit of a field report. I love doing these where we just sort of have a touch point with what's going on right now. What are you hearing from people? Because you have a lot of contacts all across America who are very tuned in to the energetics. And what's fun is that, we all have our networks, right? So you have a lot of contact with people, like I said, who are in tune with energy, and they're like conscious of more happening than what's beyond the surface. And I have some people like that, and then I have people who like have no interest in that kind of thing. But I am hearing things from people who are coming to me like, what is going on? Is there something with the planets? Is there something like going on with the atmosphere that's causing this craziness? I know in my own personal sphere, things have been wild and unexpected and difficult. So, I'm going to hand that over to you. What kind of things are you hearing and experiencing in this early June period?
Okay. Well, we're just on the heels of the Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Retrograde. That was 3 weeks that wrapped up this past Friday. And this is a pretty doozy of a particular period. And so there was a lot of turmoil that happened there in May. And I know your father-in-law is in the hospital and don't know his current status. And I had two of my close friends from up in Seattle. Both of them lost their fathers during this time period. And I went through a little incident myself that was a little bit scary.
With your own health, you mean?
Yeah, actually. And then I had, I had a seizure that I'd never had one like that before, and it really scrambled me up. And I'm just now kind of coming out of that, but then that was stacked with just a string of other health calamities that just went bang, bang, bang. So that's played out in my own personal sphere with myself, some of my other contacts in terms of May. Now, here we are now into June, and I get a very different feeling about what's in store for us here in June. And it's getting me kind of excited.
Oh, good.
Okay, so I know that people out there right now, since we're kind of in this transition window from May into June here, some people may be still feeling the repercussions of what we've kind of just been through, and others are already starting to reorient or tune into what's coming up or what's at hand. And so there's a growing sense that we're right on the cusp of something. And Now we've talked, many times before. Is there's no one bill fits all in terms of how anybody experiences these planetary shifts, right? And so it has an amplification type of effect. And so, yeah. So, if you've done all your inner work or whatnot, these transits can be very beautiful and exciting. And for those who haven't yet, then done that inner work, these periods can be filled with drama, traumatic, or in extreme cases, souls just aren't ready to. They're not prepared to move forward. Their physical vessel literally is like they have outdated hardware, just like a computer system, and that just it can't handle the new version of Windows, or whatever, and so the hardware becomes obsolete, and it can only run so long on that old software.
Yeah.
And
I love that analogy of the hardware and software. And I was last night, I think right before we started talking, I mentioned, like, I was just talking to a client, and she has had a really crazy, couple of weeks, and she was kind of like, when's it going to stop? How long are we in for? Like, and why is it happening? And one of the things that I was equating it to, so I'd love your take on this, and maybe I've mentioned this before, but I kind of think of it as we've got new energetics coming in. Because would you say that this is related to the photon belt, or that, the high frequency energy in the galaxy that we're moving through, and it's coming into the Earth, and it's affecting the sun, and it's affecting the planet?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's
Right.
all part of this. So yeah, the overall uptick in the energy that's
available,
arriving and available to us.
Right. And so as we, as energetic beings, with, the energy building, it's the physical, it's the emotional, it's the mental, it's our spiritual, but it's something new that's coming in, and we have to kind of calibrate to it, because it's new, just like anything has to adjust. And so we kind of recalibrate, but that makes things shaky, because we have to kind of find out, like, how do I do this? What does this mean for my physical body? Like, how do I adjust myself so that I can sit in these energies and be comfortable and be upgraded, or whatever's in store for us? But it requires, shifting, and to find that equilibrium. I don't know. Would that be kind of accurate?
Yeah, it does. And because I'm going to go back a little bit here to our computer analogy, because I really love this too. And so, and I've got a background in technology and stuff. So, so what we're really talking about here is what we call FPGAs.
Oh, right. Okay? Say no more.
All right.
Well, in case there's anybody who doesn't know what that is, obviously I know.
I mean, everybody
FTBGs. PBGBs.
This is the technology has been around for a while, but it's called a field programmable gate array. And what it is it's a hardware that it's hardware that can reconfigure itself through a software update. Okay. And this is led into other kinds of technologies called MEMS, and another technology which is called software radio. Now, so the concept behind this is that you actually have hardware that can literally be reconfigured through, remotely through a software update. And our bodies are being biological organic systems, and the very nature of the DNA woven through every cell in our body is like that. And so as these energies or frequencies come in, then they're picked up through this little radio mechanism in our DNA and literally can upgrade our biology in order to support these higher, these new waves of energies that are now available to us. Okay. So in this sense, the human body, if you kind of look at it as a piece of technology, it almost opens, well, at least it does for me, is it opens up this like kind of this awe and wonder, and you go, wow, if I just look at my body as a piece of technology, this is the most amazing technology ever. It's incredible. And it's almost, and it's funny in that all the advances in technology that we're making are in some way almost a mimicry of biological functions that are really built into us.
Okay, so what would be some examples of that?
What would be examples of that? Well, for one, is this advancement to reconfigurable hardware.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is actually mirroring an organic system. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to actually turn the technologies to build technical ways to make them function more like an organic biological entity.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have the whole push towards AI and stuff like that. Now, if you want to even extend that further, then we can talk about, Wi-Fi as being actually a mere extension of an innate ability that we have for telepathy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like there's nothing really new under the sun. We're actually kind of borrowing from what we actually know
but what's hidden, because these are not like mainstream.
No,
parts of the
but where did the inspiration to create that to begin with come from? So anyways, that's a philosophical argument. We don't have to go down that, but it's just a fun little thing to think about. And that particularly we've built all this because these abilities have been suppressed. You see, so the full picture is that, we have, instant connection, communication with knowledge banks and each other and all that sort of everything. Mm-hmm. But if those abilities have been naturally suppressed in us, then we're driven to still complete that picture, but we're doing it through a projection externally, and we're building little machines that do it for us.
Yeah. That's
kind of neat stuff to think about. Yeah. So now, so what's happening with each of these transits and these portal openings as this happens? Now, the important thing is, that what happens is we mentioned three different cases. Okay, one is as we go through a transit period, and that can be very exciting and awesome, or it could be traumatic, filled with drama, right? Or we might just exit.
Right.
Okay, so, and the determining factor here is the rigidity of the belief system.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is our bodies are capable of auto-updating all that sort of stuff unless we constrain them through a rigid belief system where we become so closed-minded that we do not accept any of these upgrades, at which point our hardware will eventually just become obsolete and we will exit. And our time here will be done. Okay, now, now there's the middle case where it's like pseudo fixed, like you're kind of too attached to your old belief systems, and then it takes some kind of trauma or crises to break that up in order to open the mind up again to new possibilities.
Okay.
Or one can already just be open, and then in which case there's no trauma or crises necessary.
Okay.
But this is all about the belief systems, because the belief systems become the filtration system by which we're able to access these energetics.
It's so fascinating because it's showing trauma as a tool, and it is such a powerful tool. You know, how many people have had a near-death experience that it's totally blown open their understanding of what's happening here and after death.
Yeah.
And they just, and I mean, that would be, I would think, one of the ultimate traumas, you know, where you die and then you come back, you know. But it's interesting. I mean, I love to reframe things, because on the surface, you know, we think one thing is happening, and and it can, and I have to remind myself of this when I'm going through difficult things. You know, it's like, oh, why is this happening? Why, you know, it shouldn't be like this. It should be like this. And it can be so helpful to pull back and be like, okay, something must be coming, like this must be necessary, or it must be an opportunity that is going to, you know, be maybe the quickest route for me to be able to have exposure to this experience or this emotion and get deeper into coming into mastery or whatever, you know. But it's great to have those reminders, because I can imagine that people who are listening, you know, it's not the first time that they've heard that, you know, your traumas can be catalysts for things, but it can be so helpful to have those reminders of the role that they can play here in our human experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great self-reflective question to ask. There's a number of great questions, but it's just simply to ask is what are my limiting beliefs, or how are my beliefs limiting my experience and expression of life?
Yeah.
And just and then for those who are unaware, the idea behind that is you're not quizzing yourself so much as just to introduce this kind of a question within your meditative practice. So you just kind of ask the question, and then just quiet, still your mind, and just see what kind of bubbles up to the surface. And incidentally, if you're like most people, it's not uncommon that if we ask such an honest question like that, but it doesn't mean we're always going to like the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, he likes to be like, oh yeah, I got mustard. I had my mustard on my chin for the whole date. Oh my goodness, right? and that's whenever we take a look at ourselves, we're gonna be confronted, or we're gonna find things that we need to change for our own growth to continue.
Yeah.
So, so be open to that, even if you don't know what the change is, and it will present. And then you can argue with yourself about it.
Yeah.
All right. So, now back to the grid here in terms of what's happening planetary. What are we on the cusp of? Of course, we're coming up to
solstice.
The solstice, which would be like the second most significant day in June.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Because of Flag Day?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Flag Day. No,
just kidding, because of our birthday.
Yeah. June 9th.
That's right.
Yeah. And okay, so I've gotten some different reports from people in terms of what they're feeling and they're experiencing this general sense of like we're on the cusp of something. And so this next portal opening or gateway transit period, and as this opens up, there's an opportunity, of course, for the elevation of an expansion of consciousness. Okay, to step into greater awareness, to expand one's sense of self, one's um, awareness. Now, that what's going on here, there's a lot of activity on what I would call the galactic plane, and also what I would just in more general terms, I would just call the inner planes. And I'm picking this up, and so when I tuning into the galactic plane, it looks like it kind of looks like for those who've seen like old like kind of medieval battlegrounds, and you have the armies that approach the battlefield, and then there's this whole series of trumpet calls as different flags and regiments as they march out and they take their positions onto the battlefield, where there's this maneuvering or of putting all the pieces into place, kind of a all right. So that's what I'm seeing at the galactic plane. And so it's like things are moving into position. Now this is where it starts to give.
Exciting.
I know. And for something, and all I can tell is that it's imminent. So it's, this is happening, and what I'm seeing is generally in the past we take a certain transit period like Lionsgate or something like that, and I'll witness and I can see into this, into the ethers, how there's this like ringed gate that opens up. That's the portal. Mm-hmm. Okay. This one is different. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Really?
Yeah. It's more like it's a pattern of gates that are all coming together to form a super gate that's opening up. That's bigger than anything we've ever witnessed before.
Oh my gosh, there's so many tingles all in my head.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Wow. And this is like a team effort of epic proportions. So there are planetary grid sectors that are lighting up that have not activated yet. They're activating, and they're all working together. And this is in combination with what I'm seeing on the galactic plane, as well as what I'm feeling internally, straight to the heart core.
And that would be the inner planes that you talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So what are you feeling like in your heart?
Well,
different things feel like they're shifting and coming into alignment?
Yeah, I really do feel that.
That's incredible. So do you get the sense that what is imminent will be, because it sounds very powerful, and do you feel like it's something that will be like more and more people will undeniably be experiencing like something is shifting? So meaning, if we go back to how I started this, where it's like, okay, your contacts are already tuned in and have gone through a lot of awakenings. We may be talking to people who are just dipping their toe in, and it's like, maybe they meditate and they have a curiosity about things, but they're newer or they're not quite as dialed into things, but they're even starting to notice. So maybe, it keeps expanding toward more and more people who have no interest even in this type of conversation, going, what in the world is going on?
Yeah. And it's one of these things where, I mean, I can, I'm bearing witness to what I see on the energetic side. How it plays out.
Yeah.
Is really speculation or conjecture.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so
but let's speculate. It's
okay,
fun.
we can totally speculate,
too.
but this is not a prediction.
Okay.
It's a speculation. And one of the nature of this gate and the size of it is like almost, it blows my mind. And I'm like, wow, there's, I mean, more people are going to go through this transit than was ever possible before. So to answer your question is a lot of folks are going to be transiting through this and subsequently getting their upgrades.
Okay. And so when you say transiting, that doesn't necessarily mean dropping the body and transitioning.
Oh, no. I don't mean that kind of a transition. Okay. I mean, transiting through, like you would. And that expansion. You're like you're going through the airport terminal and you're going, and then you're transiting to the.
Right. And on the other side is greater expansion, greater. Correct. We can't say for sure, but that's the potential.
Yeah. When I, and yeah, that's, thanks for clearing that up. And I'll tend to say, when I'm referring and speaking in this kind of terms, if I'm referring to somebody who's not going to make the transit, then I would refer to that as cycling off.
Oh, right. Okay. That would be dying.
Dying. Yeah. Dying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Dropping the body.
Physical body.
Yeah. So, then now, let's see here. So one of how much literature and teachings and whatever have you come across that kind of boils down our choices into this base level duality of love and fear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure everybody, that's not new news. We have this choice of love and fear, and and we can evaluate all of our decisions based on this particular dynamic. Say, well, is that person, is they, their parent is, kind of hyper controlling of their children under the guise of going, oh, they say that they're loving and they're trying to protect their kids. Not so much. Mm-hmm. They're actually acting out of fear.
Yeah.
Right. So things get mislabeled a lot, particularly in our own minds. We think that it's something's love when it's actually fear. But that aside, okay, what's really exciting to me, which I'm sensing here in this combination of what's going on these multiple planes of existence, is this new shift or opening up this gateway to true love. And now 99.99% of all humans are really, yes, we all love. And it overwhelmingly, though, it's conditional love. Mm-hmm. Now, conditional love feels good. Mm-hmm. Love always feels good in all of its forms. Mm-hmm. It's always a beautiful thing. The difference between conditional and unconditional love is that conditional love is like, okay, there's obviously there's something attached to it in terms of some condition, and if that condition gets hit or met, then it triggers and it interrupts, and the flow of love stops, and that's what hurts. That's what's painful, and that's what's within all forms of relationships. Whenever that interruption occurs, that's a sign of conditional love. And the now the amazing thing about unconditional love is that flow of love is never interrupted. That's the very nature of unconditional love. Now, the interesting thing is that just because two people love each other unconditionally doesn't mean that they always agree. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that there, won't be conflicts or anything like that. But the difference is that the hearts never close off to each other. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that hurts more than anything else is when our heart shuts down. We call it a broken heart. Mm-hmm. And whether it lasts for a few days or it lasts for a few years or a few decades or however long it's awful. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is this is really core and central to this next phase that we're going through, where more and more of us imagine a world where instead of loving conditionally, we loved unconditionally, and even keeping everything else so-called the same. But that one switch over would be the salvation of us as a species. Mm.
Wow.
And it doesn't mean that our differences, we still have differences and disagreements. Mm-hmm. But our responses to those disagreements, our responses to the conflicts will be very, very different. Mm-hmm. Because in the flow with unconditional love, it's not possible really to dehumanize, demonize, or separate ourselves from another. Mm-hmm. And so there's an intrinsic understanding that we're all in this together.
Yeah. Yeah, and being able to experience that on a mass scale would be
right. Yeah. And now, again, this is a kind of a bit of speculation here, mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily think that this is like I don't know that it's going to be a flip the switch and all of a sudden everybody on the planet's
right.
That's kind of like the. That's a glory hallelujah moment that we all would like. Hey, yeah, I'll take that. Let's have that, right? That would make it all so much easier. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what this transit's going to be, but it's moving forward in that direction at a scale that I have not witnessed before.
I have so much heat at my crown since like this whole time where I'm like, woo, a lot of times I get air conditioner crown. This is like hot crown. I don't know what would be the reason for the difference, but whew, it's warm. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Does anything come to you as far as parting wisdom of making this as smooth of a transition as possible?
There's a few. I'm trying to think of a movie scene that,
the end of that Avengers movie where they all start coming out of the portals and they all take up. Oh my gosh, that's an amazing scene.
Isn't it?
Yes. Which one is that? Infinity Wars?
No, that would have been Endgame. Endgame, the very, very final one, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, and everyone's, and it's like that moment, reinforcements arriving kind of a moment. I was thinking to the Lord of the Rings, when the elves show up to support the Kingdom of Rohan. The lighting of the beacons, when they light the beacons and they're panning and they're going from mountaintop and like word is spreading across the land, this call for help, chills. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's this and men and elves and dwarves, they all these different, very different.
Yeah.
And
they're all coming together.
They're all coming together. Because despite their own differences and their own conflicts or whatever, they all stand for what is good and what is true.
Yeah.
And that's more important than anything.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Kara. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah. And many blessings to everybody during this time of transition. I hope it's a beautiful and smooth one for all of you.